I want to tell you a little story before we start this. Can I tell you a little story?
Yeah, okay. No, as long as it's not too long, I guess.
Oh, it's pretty long.
Okay, well, is the story about what we're about to review?
Absolutely not. Nothing whatsoever. But it's a good story. So I just woke up from a dream, Vince. Okay, so I was sitting there watching a movie in an outside movie theater with my parents. And we were watching Lord of the Rings, Vince.
Okay, so you went back in time.
Yeah, we were sitting there watching Lord of the Rings. Some man had a kid there, and a baby, and the baby started crying, screaming like normal, like a normal, real life, movie theater that I would go into. And I started screaming at this guy, "Why would you bring a kid in to go see Lord of the freaking Rings, man?" Just screaming at this guy, right?
Okay.
And the guy's like, "Well, it's only Lord of the Rings." On the screen, Vince, here comes a female orc with big old boobs. I mean, she didn't have little boobs. She had big old gigantic boobs. Straight up boobs. There was nothing totally exposed. I was like, see, that's why you don't bring a kid in to go see Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because I know about you and boobs.
So, yeah. And we were in cars. I guess there must have been a drive-in. So we left out of there. And we were going home because I was mad. I was like, I'm not even watching a movie, 3-hour movie, The Screaming Kid. So we ended up leaving, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm. And somehow I ended up getting on the on-ramp to the highway, going the wrong direction. You're supposed to go to the off-ramp. I got on the on-ramp. And it was snowing like crazy, and I was like, oh, we have to turn around before we get run into. So I pulled off the side of the road. And I'm trying to turn around, and then my parents had some weird directional thing that I couldn't follow. That's why I think I got on the wrong side of the highway. And they had a screen protector, which I still remember. This is the weirdest thing. And it was the back of a phone. And it was just a clear back of a phone. It was sitting on top of an iPad, and said, that's the screen protector. I said, it don't even fit. It's the back of a phone. Why is it even on? It's not a screen protector. So...
That's because of the boobs.
I guess. So we ended up turning around and going back up the other direction, and the car starts spinning, and it's spinning and spinning, and we finally get up and we pull off the side of the road, and now I just have cats. I got 2 brand new cats here at the house with all this other stuff going on with my dog. I got 2 cats, and I have one cat named Ripley, and Ripley somehow falls out of the car. She's sliding back down the road, and then I was like, I have to go get Ripley. She's sliding back down the other direction. So I jump out of the car, go and grab Ripley, and then I'm like on my knees trying to push her back up the hill. She starts pooping everywhere. I was like, oh great, now she's pooping! And then my alarm went off. And here I am, to do the Mandalorian review. So that's what's happening right now.
Okay, I have a story, but it's very different. It actually has to do something with this review. Back a few years ago, several years ago...
Are there orc boobs in it?
No.
Oh, alright. No. Keep going.
I don't know. Not unless George Lucas had something to do with orc boobs.
Oh, yeah, you better watch Star Wars because they might be in there now.
So, back several years ago, back before George Lucas decided to sell Disney off. Yeah, right.
He did what now?
Before he decided to sell Lucasfilm off to Disney.
What did you say originally?
Disney. He was going to sell Disney off.
I thought you said you were going to suck Disney off.
No, sell.
Okay.
Why would he suck? Well, I don't know. Some people seem to think he sucks, but that's debatable.
Oh, okay, keep going.
So several years ago, George Lucas, after finishing Episode 3, and he had actually mentioned this for quite a while, but now is actually something since at that point he had finished the films. He was done with the films, and he was like, I want to try to do a live-action Star Wars television show.
And I remember all this.
Yeah.
But keep going.
For some reason, him and his producer at the time, who I think was the same producers from the prequels, they were getting together, they were trying to work on a live action thing, and it went on and on and on. It was like development hell for them for years upon years upon years. And one of the biggest things they kept saying was the cost. There was a big cost in doing this.
But from what I remember, they said they had a script done for the first season. it was done, but they would never make it because of the cost.
Yeah, I've also I've heard that too. Now this could all be just rumors. It could be just them talking. It could have been actual factual stuff, but that's what was going on at the time. So then a few years later, before he actually sold, not sucked, but sold Lucasfilm to Disney. So he sold it off, and of course Disney made the big announcement that we've purchased Star Wars, and now we're going to make episodes 7, 8, and 9. We're going to do spin-off films, and then I think they had mentioned something about doing live-action television shows somewhere in there. Here we are at the first live-action television show for Star Wars, and it's called The Mandalorian. I have to say I've been excited for this for quite some time, just because they were talking about making live-action Star Wars television show in the first place.
So Lucas said, as if I remember, Lucas said it was going to cost him billions of dollars an episode, or hundreds of millions of dollars an episode to make a Star Wars episode, and that's why they couldn't do it. Flash forward to, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was costing him like $20, $30 million an episode, $40, $50 million a episode. So it's like, and it was Star Wars, so I think they could afford a $20 million episode of a show, because it was going to make it back, with figures and stuffed animals and ships and Lego, and every episode was going to make it back. So Lucas was just stupid. That's what I want to say. That he's dumb.
No, not necessarily, because if you think about it, George Lucas, all the Star Wars films, George Lucas made from Lucasfilm, from his own company, from his own thing. And maybe, I'm not saying for sure, but maybe he needed more backing to be able to do that. And that's where he wasn't sure if he had a studio that would back him or anything. With Game of Thrones, they had HBO and whatever studio was producing that they had some backing to make those films, to give financial money to actually make that television series. Whereas George Lucas was pretty much doing it on his own, is what I'm getting.
He didn't want to ask for help because he wanted to do everything on his own. So they could have had this show probably 10 years ago if he had gone to somebody and said, hey, would you want to finance them? And HBO would have probably been pulling money out of their pockets as fast as he could before he finished their sentence. So,
Well, I'm thinking he probably could have went to the same studio that produced all the Star Wars films up till that point, which was 20th Century Fox. So he could have went to them, but I don't know. I don't know. That's all the technical business aspect of it, but I think that's what was kind of going on there, is that he didn't really have completely the financial backing to be able to do what he really wanted to do with it. But now that he sold it off to Disney, well, Disney has all kinds of backing to be able to do that. So here we go.
So The Mandalorian, let's start this review. I paid zero attention to this before it came on. I knew it was called The Mandalorian, and I knew it was coming on Disney Plus, and I knew I was going to get Disney Plus, not just for The Mandalorian, but because I wanted Disney Plus. But with that being on there, I wanted it even more because now there's a Star Wars. And the only thing I'd read about it, which I didn't even intend to, was they said they thought it was going to be more intended for a children's show than it was an adult show. And I was like, oh great, there goes that. But that's the only thing I ever read. I never read anything else about it. And I knew zero. I wasn't even sure if there was Mandalorian in it, because I didn't see any images from the freaking thing.
For me, like I said, I've been excited about them doing a Star Wars television show anyway. And it's not like they hadn't ever went into television before, because they did the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, classic.
Yeah, and they had also done the Ewok movies. So I was excited for something that would be a weekly series, or something that would be, something to follow.
So the Mandalorian. They could have gone so many different ways with a TV show. They could have went with another like Han Solo type of thing, but not have Han Solo, but have a sort of like a character like him. Or they could have done like the droids and have an entire thing about the droids, which they Who might do, I don't know. I mean, there were so many different ways they could have gone with the series, or have another female lead and who could be a Jedi, but have been a different person than Rey. But they went with The Mandalorian, which was a super, super amazing choice because obviously of Boba Fett and him being a fan favorite. And now you have a brand new character that everybody, including me, can drool over and be like, "Oh my God, it's a new Boba Fett."
Yeah. So anyway, with The Mandalorian, what I was also getting at is that I did see some of the images of it and everything, and I wondered, oh my God, what is this going to be? And yes, David actually told me about that he had read that it's going to be, for children and not necessarily for adults and all this. And I didn't necessarily buy into that because, they say stuff like, they've been saying that stuff about even the new films and the old films, and they've been saying that kind of crap forever. So I don't even listen to that anymore. But I look at it like this. I'm going to watch it no matter what, and it doesn't matter to me if it's a kid's show or if it's because there's the animated shows out there, and those are a little more geared toward children. Not so much Clone Wars or even Rebels, but like this last one that they had was The Resistance, and that was a little more kid-friendly than it was than the other two. So, but I don't care. That doesn't bother me. But I like to see something that is a little more adult, that is a little more adult-oriented, or that adults can get into more, rather than the cutesy shit.
So The Mandalorian, Vince.
So The Mandalorian, I saw the first images of it, I saw the first trailer for it, and I was hooked. From the first trailer, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this show.
So about the show, Vince.
So as soon as they announced Disney Plus, I was hooked. I was like, yep, I'm getting it. It didn't matter. I'm gonna get it. So now the show.
Oh, there's a show on this review. Oh.
Yeah.
Is it called The Mandalorian?
So The Mandalorian is a brand new show. We've got a brand new character, like Dave said, and we're getting introduced to other brand new characters. And they've already shown some of these characters on the D23, as well as if you watched any of the Triple Force Friday announcements where they were showing all the new toys and all that was coming out that I have seen zero of.
What's a D23? Is that like a gang? You throwing up some gang signs over there or something? D23.
No, D23 is like your what is that? For your Xbox and PlayStation. What is that? The E4 or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, E3. You're close.
Yeah. E3.
E24, E23, whatever.
D23 is the Disney, I guess, version of that. Where they show all the new Disney stuff, all the stuff that's coming out for Disney.
There's a review in here somewhere for the show, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we finally got to it. Here's the show. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Loved it. I loved how it was. It was similar to what I had heard already about the live action show, which one of the rumors was that it was going to be an underworld kind of thing. That they were really looking to do something outside of the Skywalker thing, have new characters, but it was also going to be this underworld and possibly involve bounty hunters and whatnot. Here you go. Here it is.
So my Disney Plus wasn't working either, and I didn't start watching The Mandalorian until about 6 or 7 o'clock that night when I got home from work, and it's like I turned it on, and it's like clicked on stuff, and it was on there, but it wouldn't load.
Yeah.
So, or it would come up and it would pop up and said it's having difficulty loading this program now or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had.
Mandalorian actually worked. That was like the one thing I was like, if this doesn't work, man, that's it. I'm going global. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go global.
I don't know what that means either.
I don't know. It sounds pretty epic. I'm going global if this thing don't work. All right, so my thoughts on the series here. So, like I said, I went into it, didn't watch any of the trailers, haven't seen any images. I didn't even know what The Mandalorian looked like. I didn't know what the show was about. I didn't know where it took place in the timeline. I knew nothing about this watching this show. I knew zero. First of all, what I really like about the series, and I'm sure it's intentional, and everybody's like, well, of course it's going to be filmed like that. I was like, how am I going to know? It's very much a Western. It is a Western in space, and that is the best thing they could possibly do for this show. Since it is about a bounty hunter, it's sort of a outer space looking Western is what they're going for with this show.
You're talking about timeline. This is actually, and it's funny because they don't really mention it in the show, but it's actually supposed to take place, what I've heard, is like 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So after Return of the Jedi happened, that's when this happened. So it's between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens.
I'm going to try to keep the spoilers down as much as possible, but it's not possible to not talk about what happens at the end of Episode 1, because it's what the entire season's about. And it's already been spoiled if you have watched anything on YouTube, if you turn on any social media.
Which I don't.
It's already been spoiled for you.
Which I don't.
Right after I got done watching this, I got on Facebook, and there was already memes about what happened at the end of the episode. And I was like, oh my God. It was like, how did I not get spoiled the entire day? Because if I had gotten spoiled, I would have been pretty angry. But now that we are on Episode 2 and going to be going on Episode 3 here this Friday, that's why we're late doing these reviews. We're going to try to do them weekly, hopefully, once the show comes out, once we get caught up here. So, I'll get to that in a minute. But the show is very, very well filmed. Beautifully filmed. I like the colors and how it's, the yellows and the reds in it. And like I said, it's very Western-like because of, you're dealing with a bounty hunter going in to get his bounties. And they're showing familiar creatures in the Star Wars universe. Now, I have something to say about that.
Okay.
So the guy that is in the very beginning of A New Hope, it has like the big, long, weird nose, and he's like, and he turns in, Han Solo, for the Millennium Falcon to the Stormtroopers.
Yeah, that's the Gundarian, I think it's called, or something like that. But yeah, he's got the long nose, and he's outside Docking Bay 94 when Luke and Obi-Wan and the droids are going to meet Han Solo at the Millennium Falcon.
So they show this character in the show, and he does something really kind of cool. But then you're like, well, why can't they put new Star Wars characters? There's probably a billion different creatures out there. Why are they re-showing those characters? And I started thinking about it. It's because these are, as Ben Kenobi said, they're like the scum of the earth or whatever. They're the low lifes of the galaxy. And so where the Mandalorian is at the very beginning of it, you would see those characters. Those characters would hang out around where he's at, because he goes into a bar in the very beginning of it with a bunch of low-life, creatures, and those creatures would be hanging out around there, I believe.
Well, yeah, because they're showing characters that are familiar, that people can go, oh yeah, that's, a character from A New Hope, or Episode 4, or from The Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi, or even, maybe even the prequels. So, yeah, they're showing characters that are recognizable, but they're also showing characters that are of the same species. So even if they're not that character from that movie, they're of that species on different planets and different worlds and different things throughout the Star Wars universe. So that's what you're seeing here, so that it's familiar to not only Star Wars fans, but also just casual people that watch the movie.
Basically what this episode is about, again, I'm not going to go through a lot of details, because if you haven't watched it, I don't want to spoil it for you. But it's impossible not to talk about the end of the episode. But again, I'll get to that in a minute. So the basic plot of this episode is the fact that he's going out doing bounties, basically. And he gets to this area that, again, I don't know how to talk about this without spoiling it. They got these things called pucks, which I don't think they were in Star Wars. At least I don't ever remember seeing those. Were they?
What are the bounty pucks? The small little discs or whatever. He sets it down in front of Carl Weathers, and who also has a great character in this. But he gives them the bounty pucks. I believe it might have came from a video game. I think it was the Bounty Hunter video game. I think that's where that came from. I haven't played that game in a long time, so I don't quite remember, but I think that's where it came from.
Yeah, but they're kind of cool. You get a puck, and it shows the person that you're going to go hunt. And then he gets a bunch of pucks, and he goes to go out to hunt them. So that's how his job works. So he goes to this other job, and they don't give him, and he meets some other people without trying to don't give anything away. And he he wants one of the pucks, but they won't give it to him because they won't show what it is that he's going after. So then he goes after this person, and this is where, for me, anyway, this is where the episode sort of dragged a bit for the fact that it didn't really, I don't understand the purpose of it or why it was in the episode, but he meets this guy, and this guy had like these big frog lizard things. And he tells the Mandalorian, well, you got to learn how to ride one of these frog lizard things to get to where you got to go. But they never explained why he had to do it.
Yeah, I know. They didn't really explain why that creature was in there or why he had to learn how to ride it or what, because for some reason he has to learn how to ride it to go after this bounty. No, I didn't get that. But the creature that he's riding actually, I believe it came from one of the Ewok films. So it's actually in one of those. I think it was the first one.
But I watched the episode twice because I really wanted to get the entire thing in. I didn't want to get on here as a Star Wars fanboy and just kind of gush and be like, oh my God, it is the greatest experience I have ever experienced in my entire experiencing of life. I didn't want to do that. So I watched it twice. So when I got to that point in that episode again, I was just like, why couldn't he just walk over there? Or why couldn't he get a land speeder and just float over there? Or why couldn't he just fly over there? Why does he have to spend 10 minutes of the episode learning how to ride one of these creatures to walk over there? And they never explain why. I don't get that, but I'm like, okay.
I also liked the character that he was talking to, which is played by Nick Nolte. I can't remember the name of his character, but it's played by Nick Nolte, and actually I think I liked his character a lot.
Yeah, it's a great character. I like that character a lot too.
I thought it was interesting because he says you got to learn how to ride this thing because your ancestors used to ride I think he said Methosaur or something. I forget what the name of the creature was. But what he was referring back to, actually, when he mentions this, is that part in the Star Wars Holiday Special where they introduced Boba Fett for the very first time, was in the Star Wars Holiday Special, and that's what he was riding, was this great big like lizard creature. And the other thing I really liked about that was that not only did they mention that creature from the Holiday Special, but the Mandalorian has a rifle, and the rifle has like these two prongs on it, and that also came directly from the Star Wars Holiday Special. So
that's the first thing I told Becky when I was watching. I was like, that's the gun from the Christmas special.
It's really cool that they're using stuff that came from that television show, even though it wasn't that great of a show. But it's so cool to see this stuff come to life, and the first time I saw that, I thought, man, that is awesome. You can call me a fanboy if you want, but I love seeing that, come from the animated version of it to an actual version of it, a live action version of that rifle, and to actually see what it does, and it's just amazing. I absolutely love that.
And they actually mentioned Life Day in this as well. I'm not going to say much more about that, but they did say something about Life Day.
Yeah, they did. They mentioned Life Day. That was pretty cool, too.
So the other character that they show in this, and it's kind of a spoiler, but not really, because if you get Disney Plus, it comes up with a huge banner on top of the thing, and it shows all these characters that's not even in the show yet. Some are not in the show yet. One of them is IG-88, or whatever he's supposed to be. And me growing up, he was one of my favorite bounty. Him and probably Bosk were two of my favorite just people who stood there and didn't do anything. And I even had the action figure of IG-88. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, how is this thing looks like a stovepipe? How does it fight? And I was like, I have no clue.
Yeah, that was another character I really enjoyed. It's not actually IG-88 though. It's a, I forget what it's actually called, but it's a different number. It's not IG-88, but it's a bounty droid. It's a droid that's bounty hunter droid that's similar to IG-88. And yeah, it was really cool to see how it actually moved and how that actually worked.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I've always wondered how that thing works, how it walks, how it functions, because it doesn't look like it's something that would be able to do what it's supposed to do. So that's for me, that little shootout there at the end. After watching it a second time, it was a little goofy. It was literally on the goofy side. It was good, but it was a little too goofy, I guess.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was goofy. I thought it was. I thought it made sense because you talk about it being a Western. Well, it was sort of like a Western. It was literally like a Western. I mean, it was a shootout at the OK Corral kind of thing, and I mean, I liked it. I loved that whole thing, that whole sequence. I thought that was fantastic. I thought they did a great job with that.
So anyway, we get to the end of the show, and this is where the spoiler comes in. Okay, and I literally screamed out loud when they showed this. And if you don't want to watch it, you might as well just not watch the rest of our reviews, because the thing that they find at the end of the episode, is what this whole series is about, and you can't not mention it without talking about the series and continue talking about the series. So, it's... When they first showed it, the first thing I screamed out was like, huh?
My battery died. I gotta change my battery.
Oh.
Go ahead and talk.
The first thing they showed, the first thing I said, I screamed out and like, oh my God, it's Baby Yoda! I literally screamed that out loud. I was like, there's Baby Yoda! Oh my God! And I freaked out because I was not expecting that at all. And it was a great moment, but now it's been spoiled 1,000 times over. It's been spoiled on here. But that's what this show is about, is the Mandalorian finds a Baby Yoda. It's not actually Baby Yoda, but it's the race of Yoda. And it's amazing looking. I'm pretty sure it's a puppet. I don't think it's CGI. It looks like a puppet to me. And now it's sort of like, is he going to turn this little baby into the people who want it back, or is he going to keep it for his own and not give it over? Because he has to make this choice now, and that's what the 8 episodes, I'm assuming, is going to be about, is him either trying to protect Baby Yoda, because that's his name now, or or turning him over. I don't know. That's sort of what the whole series is about now.
So yeah, I was really surprised about that as well, to see them actually go to that. I mean, it was like, and I have to say, as soon as I saw, like, because they showed like a silhouette, I was like, oh boy, what? And then when they actually revealed it, it was like, oh my gosh, wait a minute, it looks like Gizmo. Because it did. It kind of looked like Gizmo in the face, and I was like, but I know what it was, but it kind of looked like Gizmo. But yeah, I don't know if it's like the focus of the entire series or that,
Absolutely, it's absolutely. I mean,
obviously it was going to be a big portion of what was going into episode 2, which we're going to do next.
Yeah, after watching episode 2, yeah, that's the main focus of this entire series is Baby Yoda. So that's why I had to spoil it for everyone.
I loved it. I love the fact that they're showing a creature from what we've previously seen, and it's a creature that obviously with Yoda, he's he's even more mysterious than Boba Fett himself. And that was the whole thing about Boba Fett, is that he was a mysterious player in the especially with the original trilogy. You didn't know much about him at all, and that's what made him such a great character, was that you didn't know anything about him. And then, of course, as the prequels went along, and then the animated series and all that, you kind of learned more, and you learned about Jango Fett and a little bit more about the Mandalorians, because they were in the Clone Wars. So, you learned a little bit more, but for the most part, the Mandalorian himself is still a real mystery. And no, they haven't revealed any names, but if they don't ever, I don't care. I'd rather them just call him the Mandalorian the entire freaking time if they have to.
So that's what I was going to say too. As far as I know, they've never ever gone into what Yoda is, or what sort of race he is, or where his race came from, or any of that. So now you have this opportunity with this show to finally find out about all of Yoda's race. And that is, for me, the most exciting thing about the show right now, is after all these years, we finally get to know. Hopefully they will tell us. I'm assuming that's kind of what the focus of the show is going to be, is to find out about his race and what he is and where he came from and everything like that.
The other thing about that, too, is that they did have other Yoda species in the original Star Wars, in the prequels. Because on the Jedi Council, there was 2 other Yodas sitting there next to him. And so they have shown the Yoda that he is a species of some sort. So there's other Yodas out there. Have they ever shown a baby Yoda? No. So this is and divulged into it even more like this? No. So this is still a complete mystery. You don't know anything about them.
It's big, is what it is. It was like it went global, Vince. It literally went global.
You're going global, Dave?
Yeah, I went global when they showed Baby Yoda. That was me going global. So, yeah.
So for this first episode, I would have to give the first episode the bomb!
Now, see, I'm going to give the first episode a 5 out of 5, simply for the fact that it kind of, to me anyway, it kind of dragged in the beginning of it, or the middle of it, with the whole lizard frog thing. I wish that wasn't in there. If it wasn't, I think it would have been an incredible, perfect episode, but, that was my only issue with it.
No, it was perfect. I liked it. I didn't find it dragged at all. The only thing I found is that, of course, these episodes are only about 40 to 45 minutes long. So, I'm like, it definitely at the end of this, it left you wanting to see the next episode, which I'm glad. And I hope that keeps up throughout the entire series, that you want to see more. Because, like, for instance, like Cobra Kai, when I was watching that series, both seasons was exactly like that. I mean, you got to the end of and those were only 30 minutes long at most, and you get to the end of that and it was like, oh my god, I have to watch the next one now. I need to watch it. And this one is kind of like that. I mean, I can't wait to see the next episode. I can't say I would necessarily want to go, yeah, I gotta see it now. But at the same time, yeah, I gotta see it now. I can't wait to see the next one.
And, well, you guys have the opportunities to watch the next one, our next review, because it's coming up right after this one, because we're late already on this thing, and we're trying to catch up, because a lot of stuff has been going on, and I hadn't had a chance to come down here and record this, and because of my dog and my cats and all this stuff that's happening.
And weird dreams.
Yeah, weird dreams, too.
With orc boobs.
So, hopefully, you maniacs out there, I know this thing was long, but we had a lot to say about it. Episode 2 probably won't be as long. I don't think I'm going to have any more dreams between this one and the next one, since we're recording them back-to-back. But, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great episode. And that's it. And, you know, please hit subscribe and do your thing if you haven't done it yet, and hit the bell and all that stuff, because we're going to be here every single week. This is a continuing, our first, I guess, continuing together anyway, because I've done this before, TV show. And it's going to go until almost the end of December. So, yeah, it's going to be quite long here.
This is not quite Merry Maniacs yet. It's just a show that we're doing, so it's not Merry Maniacs at this point. But Merry Maniacs is coming. We do have some holiday movies and things to bring you for Merry Maniacs, so that's coming. So stay tuned for that. But like Dave said, this is an ongoing series, so it's going to take us all the way through December and even into The Rise of Skywalker, which is coming in December, of course.
And you know what? We're going global.
So like, subscribe, comment, do all that, and I have spoken.